In the last video, we mentioned 3 principles of effective management. You will learn the remaining 2 principles in this video. If you haven't watched the first one, please do so now because some information here is built on the previous principles. Okay, so the 4th principle is a pair of twins. They're called authority, and responsibility. Okay, so they go hand in hand. Authority literally means the permission to do something. For example, a company gives a worker the right to make certain decisions and give orders. Workers are enabled to accomplish their task by exercising their authority. And of course, different positions have different authority. Say top managers like the headmistress of our school usually have the highest authority. First line managers will be entitled less authority. To illustrate this principle further, let's imagine a school that evaluates teachers' performance solely based on their students' exam score. So solely on their exam scores. And in this case, students' academic achievement is considered the full responsibility of their teachers. The full responsibility of their teachers. But what about authority? Do your teachers have the right to force their students to learn and monitor what they do after school? And do your teachers have the authority to stop them from playing Pokemon Go and even tell students when to go to bed? Well, not really, right? But then apart from in-class tutoring, these habits might as well affect how these students score in their exams. So what we can conclude from this hypothetical case is that these teachers do not have enough authority or the right to monitor their students' learning outside school, and yet these teachers are evaluated solely based on their students' exam performance and considered to be fully responsible for the exam scores of their students. And that is unfair to the teachers, and it certainly violates the 4th principle of effective management. To repeat, authority and responsibility are twins, and they must go hand in hand. A worker who has a responsibility for a certain task must also have received the authority to help him or her to carry that out. For example, like janitors, they have responsibility to clean the classrooms. So they must also have the authority to unlock the classrooms too. Otherwise, they cannot perform their task. But sometimes there is too much work and managers would assign tasks to someone else to do it for them. And when they do so, they delegate authority to the worker. Let me use another color. So, delegation. Delegation is a concept that refers to the transfer of authority and responsibility from one person to another person. Okay? The transfer. For example, if your headmistress hires a new English teacher, and this teacher is a bad teacher, so you learn nothing in his class, then in this case, who will be held responsible? Well, first, your English teacher would be directly responsible for this because, after all, he or she did the teaching poorly. But more importantly, you should know that your headmistress should probably hold accountability for this too, because it is her who made this decision to hire and delegate work to this English teacher in the first place. And this same logic applies to the case in which the CEO of Volkswagen, a German car company, he was forced to resign over the diesel emission scandal of the company, even though the CEO personally did nothing wrong. And the fifth and last principle is called management by objectives. Management by objectives. And the acronym we will use is MBO. So every time we mention MBO, you should know that it refers to management by objectives. Remember, there's an S behind objective because there are more than one objectives in this process. You'll see in a minute. And this acronym sounds very intimidating and professional, right? But don't worry, it's actually a very straightforward process that involves 4 steps. So, first step. Its name, MBO, suggests the first step is to set objectives. So setting objectives is the first goal, as the first stage. And we would approach it with a top-down approach to make sure that the company's objectives are aligned. So let me insert a diagram here. Okay. As you can see, first, the top managers set the overall organizational goals and overall objectives. Then we get one layer down to the middle managers who will jointly set the department objectives, and then one layer down, first line managers or frontline managers of each department will then jointly set their store or city objectives. And then finally, these first line managers will discuss these regional goals with the with individual employee, and each worker will then set his or her individual objectives after discussing with their immediate supervisors. So this is to ensure all objectives are aligned and are consistent with the overall organizational goals. And that's it for step 1. Let me remove it. Okay, so what about step 2? Well, what about step 2? And then actually I want to summarize step 2, 3, 4 in an acronym called PI. So let me get this. Okay, step 2, step 3, step 4, PIE. And this acronym the first one, P, actually stands for planning, and the third step, I, means implementation, and the fourth and the last step is evaluation. You should try to remember this dessert acronym because this will be very useful and applicable in many other processes that you're going to learn in BFS. Let me insert another diagram. Okay. So this is the whole MBA process. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and step 4. And as you can see, we talked about setting objectives with a top-down approach. And then step 2, developing action plan, that means planning. And then step 3 is implementation, and step 4, reviewing performance, which means evaluation. And during this step 2, 3, 4, during the PI stages, I'll start calling it PI, managers and subordinates will have regular meetings to discuss their goals, progress, their problems of action or execution, The workers are directly involved in setting their goals and execution plans. So basically, the pie is an ongoing process of discussion among managers and subordinates. And this cycle might repeat if the workers have achieved the goals or that there are new objectives to be set. So this is a cycle. Now that we understand what MBO is, and let's talk about the pros and cons. So the obvious benefits of MBO is that first, individual workers' plans are linked to the company goals, right? Linked to the objectives that they set, so they are coordinated goals. And hence is quite consistent with the unity of direction, another principle of effective management. If you don't know what this principle is, check out the previous video for the same topic first before moving on. Okay, the second benefit is that MBO requires an ongoing discussion, right? So there is more communication and more feedback going on in the workplace. But note that this doesn't necessarily translate into better relationship, because you're talking a lot more to a person doesn't necessarily mean that you're on good terms with him or her, right? And the third benefit is that since workers are involved in the goal setting procedures, so they grasp a better understanding of the company objective and might be more committed to their own individual objectives. So this is a potential benefit, more commitment to individual goals, individual objectives. And last benefit that I'm going to talk about is evaluation. So this stage is very, very important because if there's a stage for evaluation, then rewards might be given when the goals are met by the employees. So this can be motivating, right? They know that their goals are being met and they are they receive the compliments from their supervisors. But then MBOs also have some shortcomings. So it takes up the manager's time and also adds workload to the managers. And also, under MBO, workers carried out activities that adhered strictly to these 4 steps and the preset norms or rules. So it might risk being bureaucratic. Okay, just a quick recap of these 2 videos. The 5 principles of effective management are: first, division of labor. Second and third principle are the 2 unities, unity of direction and unity of command. And fourth are the twins, authority and responsibility. And the 5th one is MBO, so management by objectives, that include the goal setting stage and a PI, the dessert acronym that you should remember from now on. Thanks for watching.